Welcome back, True Seeker. Another important post in regards to the death of Pope Francis, April 21st, 2025, on Rome's anniversary of being established. If you've missed the two prior live streams, if you have the time, I'd encourage you to watch them. If you're short on time, at least watch the second one. But here's another big piece, and this is an example of predictive programming. For years, I have talked about Slipknot, the band, and their song Gematria, the Killing Name. And a few years back, we covered when Corey Taylor, the singer for the band, said that they would only ever perform Gematria, the Killing Name live again if the performance was for the Pope. And funny enough, they performed it for the first time in a very long time on February 28th this year, the 59th day of the year, 52 days before the Pope died. And of course, in Gematria, Pope Francis equates to 59, and the word Pope alone equates to 52. Like you have the 52-week calendar name for the Pope. Of course, the Pope died on the 111th day of the year, and his birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 111. There's a lot more to it as well, though, and I'm going to get into this, but I want to read the reporting first from February 28, 2025, the day of the performance that hadn't happened in a long, long time. And if you were watching my work in February when the Pope was hospitalized and they were saying he was days from his deathbed, I said I won't be surprised if he dies on February 28th, the 59th day of the year, because that number's been so important to his papacy. Again, Benedict stepped down on the 59th day of the year for him. The 59th U.S. presidential election is where Joe Biden was elected number 46, exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. Notice also that the last Super Bowl that was played while the Pope was alive was Super Bowl 59, and Philadelphia won, which is interesting because they're the 267 area code, and the next Pope will be the 267th in the history of the church. To read this reporting, though, this is syndicated from ABC. Even though Corey Taylor thought it would never happen, Slipknot has finally played Gematria, the Killing Name, in concert. According to Setlist FM, the Masked Meddlers gave the track its live debut during their set at Knotfest Australia Friday, nearly 17 years after it was released on the Knots 2008 album, All Hope Is Gone. Knot is obviously short for Slipknot. And if you're not familiar with Slipknot, again, they paint their faces, they wear masks. The drummer often wears a crown of thorns, a lot like Jesus. Back in 2023, Taylor told the All Things Music podcast that he didn't think Gematria would ever make it into the set list, even though he really wanted to play it live. There are certain odiums around the way that the song was created and recorded, which is why some of the guys in the band are like, F that, we'll never play it, Taylor said at the time. It's not even sentimental, it's resentment. But for me, man, it's such a effing burner. I just love that song. He added, unless the Pope ends up effing opening the Slipknot someday, that S will never happen. We're guessing the Pope was not in the pit, but perhaps some other religious force got the rest of Slipknot to change their minds. How about like the Jesuits? Knotfest Australia continues Sunday. Slipknot will then launch a European tour in June before returning to the U.S. to headline the Incarceration Festival in July. All right, looks like it's some kind of play on incarceration. So, again, the performance was the 59th day of the year, big number for Francis, a number that defined his papacy. And keep in mind, they did this performance in 2025. Pope Francis 59, Pope 25. To get those values, you just take the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26, and you apply numerology to each letter. So, for example, P is the 16th letter. The numerology of 16 is 1 plus 6 is 7, so P is 7. O is the 15th letter. 1 plus 5 is 6, and so on. Now, again, from the performance to the death, 52 days. In the most simple cipher, the alphabetic order without numerology, Pope is 52. If you're new here, there's 4 base ciphers of the English language. They are the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and both orders with numerology applied. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse numerology, Gematria is 52. Gematria, the Killing Name, is the song. Keep in mind that Kabbalah also equates to 52 in that cipher, and that's where this practice comes from. Kabbalah, where the Book of Formation, the Kabbalistic text, states that God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. Obviously, the Pope related with the concept of God. The Catholic Church think he's the closest man to God walking the earth. But here's the number we've always talked about with Gematria and killing. Very fateful pattern. The 74th day of the year is to remember the killing of Caesar. 3 of the first 5 U.S. presidents died on 7/4. But notice, it was the Pope's 74th day of his age that they performed Gematria, the killing name, in the most simple cipher, ABC 123, Gematria 74, like killing. Keep in mind, holidays 74, he dies the weekend of Easter, dies on Easter Monday. English is also 74. So is Jesus, cross, Messiah, parables, gospel, Joshua. Again, Joshua is the English translation of Jesus. Lucifer, who has parallels to Jesus, both referred to as morning stars. Energy and occult, all 74. And another familiar pattern is the Police did the song about Gematria in 1983 called Murder by Numbers, where killing is as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. Notice the song was performed on the 83rd day of Corey Taylor's age, Murder 83. And keep in mind, Corey Taylor's 51, thus he's in his 52nd year of life. Rome equals 51, Pope equals 52. The Pope died on the birthday of Rome, April 21st. Notice also how Catholic and Slipknot have perfect overlap, 35 and 46. Think of JFK, number 35, killed on I-35 at age 46 as the nation's first Catholic president. The second, Joe Biden, number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday after the ritual sacrifice of Beau Biden at 46, and then inaugurated on the 35th day of the Pope's age. And then his son, who was born on the 35th day of the year, Hunter Biden, went through character assassination. And of course, they said Pope Francis died 35 minutes after the hour. Big time numbers with the church. When Corey Taylor did the interview about how they would never perform Gematria, the killing name, again unless it was for the Pope, that interview was given on May 4th. May 4th, 5-4. Jesuit Order 54. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope. The Jesuit headquarters, the Church of the Jesu, Building 54. And what else is wild is the phrase Mark of the Beast equals 54. From that interview to the performance of Gematria, the killing name, was exactly 666 days. The Mark of the Beast. And remember, the riddle in Revelation 13:18 about 666 is also connected to Roman leadership in history. Think about it. Just to remind you about some other recent deaths of Slipknot members, just the patterns. Joey Jordison died at 46. He was the drummer. Drummer has the Gematria of 38, like killing, like Gematria, like English, also like Kabbalah. Paul Gray, the first member to die, died at age 38. Joey Jordison died on July 26, 2021, a date with 38 numerology. Again, I talked about Slipknot and Gematria, the killing name, in both of my books that are out there. If you want to look them up, Zachary K. Hubbard, Number Games is my more recent book. Zachary K. Hubbard, Letters and Numbers is my first book. You can get them in ebook format straight from my website, gematriaeffect.news, if you're interested. But going back to Paul Gray, who died at 38, he also died 46 days after his birthday on the 144th day of the year. Again, sacrifice equals 46, like Genesis 46 is about sacrifice. Slipknot also 46, like Catholic. He died on the 144th day of the year when Jesuit Order equates to 144. That's without numerology. When you use numerology, it equates to 54. And for the record, Mark of the Beast without numerology also equates to 144. If you add the first 144 decimal points of pi, it also equates to 666, interestingly enough. And just for the record, when the more recent member of the band died, he died 144 days before Pope Francis's birthday. So we've been on this pattern for a long time. Jesuit Order 54, 144. This happened before Corey Taylor gave the interview about how they would only perform the song for the Pope. Joey Jordison died on a date with 54 and 74 date numerology. The lesser date was 54, 7 plus 26 plus 21, July 26, 21, 54, 7 plus 26 plus 20 plus 21 is 74. Gematria, the killing name. There he is dressed up like Jesus with the crown of thorns. Joey Jordison also died before Super Bowl 56. Remember, Joe Burrow was in that Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow transferred to LSU the day that Billy Cannon died on Cannonball Day, which is something that's celebrated by the Jesuits. It's the day to remember the Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, being shot with a cannonball. But yeah, Iowa is or Slipknot's an Iowa-based band, just like Joe Burrow's an Iowa guy. And yeah, I don't think those things were unrelated either. Joe Burrow won the LSU championship on 54 date numerology in New Orleans, which equals 54. Came out of the Louisiana Purchase from the French, where the Jesuits were created in Paris, France. But yeah, Joey Jordison, he also went on a rant in recent times about online conspiracy theorists. And he was talking about he was sick of these know-it-alls on the internet who are dumb people who just have confidence, coming up with conspiracies about the band and their music. I really felt when he went on that rant years ago that he was actually talking about yours truly, because there's not a whole lot of people on the internet that constantly bring up Slipknot and their song Gematria, the Killing Name, and how it fits in with the rituals of what happened to their past band members, as well as, again, it goes beyond just Slipknot. These patterns of death and killing show up in so many rituals in the world of entertainment. And God, you know what's wild? Just even looking back at this, look at when Louder published that article. Do you see that they published it at 5:09 p.m.? 5:09. Pope Francis. They end up performing the song on the 59th day of the year, perfectly coordinated with the Pope's death. And I wish so much that I would have known that they had performed this song on the 59th day of the year. I missed this story. I didn't catch that. Had I seen this, again, we knew the Pope's time was near. I would have thought, wow, look at how this all lines up. I think we would have been able to spot April 21st from February 28th, because, again, I did suggest when he was in the hospital that that might end up be the day he passed. He obviously did not, but we understand why Slipknot performed this song on that specific date. If you're new here, also something noteworthy. 228, as we would write the date in the US, 228. United States of America equals 228. In Sumerian Gematria, that's where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6, death equals 228. Death is 38 with the alphabetic order. 38 times 6 is 228. So death in the United States of America both equal 228. Remember, the only born American who has a holiday named after him is Martin Luther King Jr., whose name equals 228, and that was his name given to him. And don't forget, he was killed in a major Jesuit ritual. He was killed on the 95th day of the year after taking the name of Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Theses. Again, from Martin Luther penning the 95 Theses to the Jesuits being created was 201 months later. From MLK getting assassinated to the nation's first gun control, where serial numbers were put on guns, was 201 days later. Like the Jesuit order equals 201, like Ignatius of Loyola equals 201, like Jorge Mario Bergoglio equals 201. That's Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, who just died 201 days after the solar eclipse in his native country, Argentina. And he also died a span of 201 days from St. Francis of Assisi's death anniversary, when Pope Francis is named after St. Francis of Assisi. Go figure. But yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Tonight, we will do episode 3 of the new podcast, and it is going to be focused on the Pope with some new additional information, recapping a lot of the things we covered yesterday. Again, the podcast goes out to a different platform, so we've got to make sure we get out this information. And I think being redundant about these things is also good for everybody else who wants to learn the information and teach the information and wake up their friends and family. Really, that's every human's obligation, is to wake our friends and family up to the tyranny that is happening on this earth, how religion's a big part of it, how government's a big part of it, how entertainment's a big part of it, and how this Kabbalistic code is literally used every day in the tyranny, whether we're talking about the murder of celebrities, the contriving of news and propaganda to force agendas that have real impact on our lives, like Event 201 being the pandemic simulation the day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China, right before the whole thing popped off, that changed a lot of people's lives drastically, that's caused hyperinflation throughout the world, that's impacted everyone. Again, we were on these things before they played out. And if the entire world was where we were at, these things would be stopped in their tracks. The agendas wouldn't work. The lies and the deceit wouldn't work. This evil entertainment industry would get shut down. People like Corey Taylor would be confronted and have to either spill the beans or be put out of commission. And don't forget, this band also saw one of its members lose their young daughter. And remember, when that daughter died, it was by the numbers, by this same pattern. And the band member said, hey, any flowers or cards in light of her death, just send them to the local Masonic lodge. remember, there is a link with Jesuitism and Masonry. Jesuit priests wrote a lot of the rites of Freemasonry, and they're both powerful secret societies that are in the nation's capital, the U.S. You had the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, doing the hidden hand pose, which is Masonic. All of these secret societies are related. They need to be exposed. They are the power structure of the world we live in, and they are how the conspiracies and the secrecy is executed and kept from the general public. We'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Until next time.
Are very, very, very just fuck that, we'll never do it. I've always wanted to open a concert with Gematria. I've always wanted to, because I love. Listen, there are certain odiums around the way that song was created and recorded, which is why some of the guys in the band are like, fuck that, we'll never play it. It's not even sentimental. it's resentment.
Yes.
And but for me, man, it's such a fucking burner that I just love that song. I can listen to that shit all fucking day.
Absolutely.
You know, and it just comes screaming out of no fucking where, and you're just like, yeah. But it will never happen, you know, and unless the Pope ends up fucking opening for Slipknot someday, that shit will never happen.